The newsroom was quiet except for the steady hum of the ceiling fan and the distant clatter of keyboards. Nkem sat at her desk, her fingers tracing the yellowed edges of an old newspaper article. The headline, bold and ominous, read, "The Vanishing Village of Idu-Ogba, Mystery or Myth?" The words had an eerie pull, as if they were whispering directly to her. Beneath the headline, a grainy black and white photograph showed a dense forest with a narrow path disappearing into the trees. The accompanying article described a village that was said to appear and vanish every 7 days. Hunters, wanderers, and even researchers had tried to locate it, but most who ventured in never returned. Those who did spoke in riddles, their eyes hollow with fear. Nkem exhaled slowly, her journalist instincts kicking in. Stories like these were her passion: urban legends, unsolved mysteries, forgotten histories. And yet, something about this one felt different. A chill ran down her spine, though she couldn't explain why. Lost in thought, she looked up to see Mr. Bale, her editor, leaning against the doorway of her cubicle, arms crossed. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with deep-set eyes that had seen too much in his years as a journalist. "This is the third time I've caught you staring at that article," he said, nodding toward the newspaper. "Are you planning to write about it?" "I want to investigate," Nkem replied, sitting up straighter. "If this village is real, I need to find out why it disappears." Bale's expression darkened. "There are some stories best left alone." "That's exactly why I need to dig deeper," she said. "Too many rumors, too many unanswered questions." He sighed and walked into the office, shutting the door behind him. "Listen, Nkem," he said, lowering his voice. "Idu-Ogba is not just another ghost story. People have gone looking for it and never come back." She hesitated. "But some have returned." "Yes," Beo said grimly. "And every single one of them refused to speak about what they saw. Some went mad. One man took his own life a week later. His last words were, 'The village is watching.'" A shiver crept up Nkem's spine, but she forced herself to appear unfazed. "That's all the more reason to investigate." Beo studied her for a long moment. "You're too stubborn for your own good," he muttered, rubbing his temples. Then, after a pause, he sighed. "Fine. If you're determined to do this, at least be careful. I don't want to lose one of my best reporters." A small smile tugged at her lips. "I'll be fine." But deep inside, she wasn't so sure. As Beo left the office, Nkem turned back to the newspaper, her mind buzzing with questions. What was Idu-Ogba hiding? And more importantly, was it already watching her? The sun hung low in the sky as Nkem stepped into the heart of the bustling market. The scent of roasted plantains, dried fish, and fresh herbs filled the humid air, mingling with the rhythmic chatter of traders calling out their wares. It was the kind of place where secrets lingered in corners, waiting for the right question to bring them to life. She adjusted the strap of her satchel and approached a group of women selling spices. Their colorful wrappers fluttered as they pounded peppers in wooden mortars, their bangles clinking with each movement. "Good afternoon, Mama," Nkem greeted the eldest among them, her voice warm but purposeful. "I'm looking for information about Idu-Ogba." The woman's hands froze mid-pounding. The other women exchanged nervous glances before deliberately turning away. The air thickened with tension. The elder woman, her face etched with age and wisdom, gave Nkem a long, searching look before muttering, "That place is not for outsiders." Nkem held her gaze. "But people have seen it. Some have even returned." The woman shook her head. "Those who return are never truly whole." A shadow passed over Nkem's face, but she pressed on. What happens to them? The woman's lips pursed tightly. Then, lowering her voice, she whispered, "You cannot find Idu-Ogba. Idu-Ogba finds you." Nkem shivered despite the heat. A voice from behind startled her. "I can take you there." She turned to see a young man leaning against a wooden post, arms crossed. He was tall and lean, with sharp eyes that held both curiosity and caution. "What did you say?" Nkem asked, studying him carefully. "I know how to find Idu-Ogba," he repeated. "But I won't go inside." "Why not?" The market women had gone completely silent, their backs turned to the conversation as if pretending not to hear. The young man, who introduced himself as Sei, sighed and took a step closer. His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Because those who stay too long, disappear." The word lingered in the air, sending goosebumps across Nkem's skin. For the first time, doubt crept in. But it was too late to turn back now. The sun was beginning to set when Nkem and Sei left the market behind. The path they took was barely visible, overgrown with vines and thick underbrush, as though nature itself had conspired to keep it hidden. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. No rustling of animals. No chirping of birds. Only the sound of their own footsteps crunching against the forest floor. Nkem wiped the sweat from her forehead. "Are you sure this is the right way?" Sei didn't turn around. "The village only lets in those it chooses," he said. "If we're meant to find it, we will." His words unsettled her. It was strange, this idea of a place having a will of its own. As they moved deeper, the trees grew taller, their gnarled branches twisting like skeletal fingers reaching for the sky. The air grew thick, heavy, as if pressing down on her chest. Then, she heard it. A low, rhythmic drumbeat echoing through the trees. Her breath hitched. She looked at Sei, but he kept walking as if he didn't hear it. "Do you hear that?" she asked. He didn't stop. "Keep moving. And whatever you do, don't turn around." A chill ran down her spine. "Why not?" Sei hesitated, then said softly. "Because something might be watching." Her skin prickled. The urge to glance back was overwhelming, but she forced herself to stare straight ahead. The sound was getting louder and closer. Then, the ground beneath her feet shifted. It was soft, almost like stepping onto damp earth after heavy rain. But when she looked down, the soil was dry. She took another step forward, and suddenly, a gust of wind rushed past, carrying whispers, dozens of voices, speaking in a language she didn't understand. She froze. Sei turned sharply, his face serious. "It's starting." "What's starting?" she whispered. Before he could answer, the world around them flickered just for a moment, like a faulty film reel struggling to play. And then, through the trees, she saw it. A village. Small mud huts with thatched roofs, over mats hanging in doorways, villagers walking calmly, their faces unreadable. It was as if they had stepped into another time. Nkem's heart pounded. Idu-Ogba was real. And now, it had found her. Nkem stepped forward, but Sei grabbed her wrist. His grip was firm, urgent. "This is where I stop," he whispered. His voice trembled, but his eyes were steady. She frowned. "You're not coming." "I told you," he said, glancing at the village. "I'll take you there, but I won't go inside." She hesitated. The village stood just beyond the trees, bathed in the eerie glow of the setting sun. It looked normal. People moved about, their voices drifting through the air. A group of children chased each other near a well, while women pounded yam in large wooden mortars. Smoke curled from the roofs of huts, carrying the rich aroma of roasted plantains and spices. It didn't look like a place that had been cursed, or one that disappeared every 7 days. "I'll be back soon," she told Say, trying to sound more confident than she felt. Say sighed. "I hope you're right." Then, without another word, he turned and disappeared into the trees. Nkem swallowed and stepped forward. As she crossed the invisible threshold into the village, a strange sensation rippled through her body, like she had walked through an unseen veil. The moment her feet touched the compacted earth of Idu-Ogba, the sounds of the outside world vanished. No wind. No rustling leaves. Just silence. Too late to turn back now. She took a deep breath and walked further in. A few villagers turned to look at her. Some smiled. Others simply stared. No one looked surprised to see her. Then, from among them, a figure stepped forward. An old man, dressed in a flowing white robe, his grey beard reaching down to his chest. His eyes, dark and knowing, studied her carefully. Then, he smiled. "Welcome home, Nkem," he said. A cold shiver ran down her spine. She took a step back. "How do you know my name?" The old man did not answer. Instead, he turned and began walking toward the largest hut in the center of the village, as if expecting her to follow. Nkem's heart pounded. How could he have known her name? A breeze whispered past her ear, carrying a faint voice. "You have been here before." Nkem spun around, but there was no one there. She turned back to the old man, now standing at the entrance of the hut, waiting. She didn't know why, but she had the sudden, sinking feeling that stepping inside would change everything. But something inside her whispered that she had no choice. That she had never had a choice. Taking a shaky breath, she followed him in. The interior of the hut was dimly lit by flickering oil lamps, their golden glow casting elongated shadows on the mud walls. A fire crackled softly in the center, the flames twisting like whispering spirits. The scent of burning herbs filled the air, familiar, yet unplaceable. Nkem's eyes darted around the room. Old wooden masks lined the walls, their hollow eyes staring at her. Strange symbols were etched into the floor, their meaning lost to time. A heavy feeling settled in her chest. The old man sat on a low stool, watching her. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a mat across from him. Nkem hesitated before lowering herself onto the mat, her hands resting on her knees. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "I am Baba Ojo, the keeper of Idu-Ogba's truth." His eyes gleamed in the firelight. "And you, Nkem, you are part of that truth." She frowned. "I don't understand." Baba Ojo let out a deep sigh. "This village exists between time, trapped in a cycle that has lasted for generations. Every 7 days, we vanish. Every 7 days, we return." Nkem's fingers curled into her palms. "Why?" The old man's expression darkened. "Because of a betrayal. A great sin that cursed this village, dooming us to this endless fate." A chill ran down her spine. "What does that have to do with me?" Baba Ojo leaned forward. "Because you were part of it." Nkem's breath hitched. "That's impossible. I've never been here before." The old man studied her carefully, then nodded. "Perhaps you do not remember. But Idu-Ogba remembers you." She shook her head, her heart pounding. "This is crazy." A woman's voice cut through the air. "She must leave before the 7th sunset." Nkem turned to see an elderly woman standing at the entrance of the hut. Her face was lined with age, her eyes sharp and filled with something unreadable. Baba Ojo exhaled. This is Mama Ife. She speaks for the spirits. Mama Ife stepped closer, her gaze never leaving Nkem. If you stay too long, you will become one of us. Nkem swallowed. One of you? The ones who remain never leave, Mama Ife said. They vanish with the village. Forever. A cold dread settled in Nkem's stomach. She turned to Baba Ojo. Then why let me in? The old man exchanged a glance with Mama Ife before answering. Because you are the key to breaking the curse. Silence fell over the room. Nkem's mind raced. This wasn't just a story. This was real. Somewhere deep inside, a memory stirred just out of reach. A voice, faint but familiar, whispered in the back of her mind. You must remember. A gust of wind swept through the hut, making the flames flicker violently. Outside, the distant beat of drums echoed through the village. The seventh sunset was approaching. And time was running out. The night in Idu-Ogba was unsettlingly silent. Even the usual hum of nocturnal insects had faded, replaced by an eerie stillness that wrapped around the village like an unseen force. The air was thick, almost suffocating, as if the very space around Nkem was pressing in on her. She lay on a woven mat inside the hut Baba Ojo had given her, but sleep refused to come. Every time she closed her eyes, whispers slithered through the darkness, voices too soft to understand but urgent, insistent. You must remember. The same phrase echoed in her mind like a half-forgotten melody. Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the silence, a creaking, like the slow opening of a door. Nkem bolted upright. Her breath came fast and shallow as she scanned the room. She reached for her flashlight, but as she clicked it on, a cold shiver ran down her spine. Then she saw a boy couldn't have been older than 7, his small frame barely reaching her waist. He tilted his head slightly, his lips barely moving as he whispered. The village is watching you. A wave of nausea rolled over her. She tried to speak, but her throat tightened, as if unseen hands were squeezing it shut. Without a sound, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows outside. Nkem hesitated for a moment before rushing to the entrance and looking out. The village was still. The boy was gone. Outside her hut, there were footprints, small, childlike footprints leading away. As if the boy had vanished into thin air. Her breath hitched. A gust of wind rustled through the trees, and for the briefest moment, the village felt different, less solid, more like a mirage. As if it were already beginning to fade. A voice whispered in the back of her mind. You must remember. The seventh sunset was approaching. And Nkem was running out of time. Morning arrived in Idu-Ogba, but it brought no comfort. The golden sunlight spilled over the village, but it felt weaker, as if the place resisted the warmth of day. The night's event haunted Nkem. She had barely slept, and when she did, she dreamt of shadows moving just beyond her vision, whispering words she couldn't quite understand. Determined to find answers, she decided to map the village. If Idu-Ogba truly disappeared and reappeared, then perhaps she could document the changes, see how the land shifted, how the village rearranged itself, if it even did. With a notebook in hand, she walked the dirt paths, sketching the placement of huts, the central shrine. The villagers, as usual, were going about their day, cooking, weaving, talking in hushed tones. But something was off. There were fewer of them. She was sure of it. Yesterday, she had passed a group of young women pounding yam. But today there were fewer of them. She approached Baba Ojo, who sat under the baobab tree, chewing on kola nut. His old, wise eyes watched her with an unsettling calmness. Baba, she said. Hesitantly, Where are the others? He regarded her for a long moment before answering. They have returned to the wind. A chill crawled up her spine. What does that mean? They were never truly here, he said simply. Not in the way you are. Nkem clenched her fist. But I saw them. I spoke to them. Baba Ojo only nodded, as if that explained everything. Frustrated, she stormed off, but as she glanced at her notebook, her breath caught in her throat. Her sketches, gone. The lines she had drawn, the careful markings of where each hut had stood, had vanished from the page. Panic gripped her chest. Idu-Ogba wasn't just disappearing every 7 days. It was erasing itself. And she was still inside. The weight of realization pressed heavily on Nkem's chest. If the village could erase its own history, then what did that mean for her? Would she vanish too? Would her own footprints fade from the earth, as if she had never existed? She needed answers. With determination, she made her way toward the shrine at the heart of the village. Unlike the rest of Idu-Ogba, the shrine felt permanent. The hut was carvings of ancient symbols untouched by time or decay. As she stepped inside, the air turned thick, pressing against her skin like an unseen force. In the shrine, an ancient painting depicted the history of Idu-Ogba, showing its people in bright colors, their lives woven into the strokes of the artwork. And in the very center, standing tall among the villagers, was a woman. A woman who looked exactly like her. Nkem's knees nearly buckled. Her heart pounded against her ribs. It wasn't just a resemblance. It was her. Was it possible? Could she have been here before? Behind her, a deep voice rumbled. This is not your first time here, Nkem. Baba Ojo stood at the entrance of the shrine, his face unreadable, his gaze locked onto her with something that looked like sorrow. What do you mean? She whispered, her throat dry. You have been here before, he said. And you have forgotten. The words hit her like a punch to the gut. No. That wasn't possible. She would remember. Wouldn't she? I don't understand, she said, shaking her head. I came here for a story. I came here because... A sudden dizziness swept over her. The room blurred, the colors of the mirror shifting, twisting, as if the past was fighting its way into the present. Images flashed in her mind, glimpses of faces she didn't recognize, voices calling her name, a terrible feeling of loss. And then, a masked figure, standing in the village square. A storm brewing in the sky. Betrayal. Baba Ojo's voice was soft but heavy. The village remembers you, even if you do not. The walls of the shrine seemed to pulse, as if they were alive, breathing in her presence. Who was she in this story? And why had she forgotten? That night, Nkem lay on a woven mat inside one of the village huts, but sleep refused to come. Her mind raced with questions, her heart heavy with unease. Baba Ojo's words haunted her. This is not your first time here. The mural, the woman who looked exactly like her, the strange feeling that she was part of something far older than she could comprehend, it all churned inside her like a storm waiting to break. Finally, exhaustion overtook her, and she drifted into uneasy slumber. Then the dreams came. At first, it was nothing but darkness. A silence so deep it swallowed her whole. Then, slowly, voices began to rise, whispers carried on the wind, overlapping, merging, growing louder. The scene shifted, and suddenly, she was standing in the village square of Idu-Ogba, but it was different. The air crackled with energy, as if something powerful was about to unfold. The villagers were there, gathered in a circle, their faces twisted in sorrow. In the center of the crowd stood a masked figure. Nkem felt her own breath hitch. The mask was carved from wood, smooth and dark, covering the figure's entire face except for the hollowed-out eyes. It was the same mask she had seen in the shrine mural. Her heart pounded. The villagers were speaking now, their voices filled with desperation. "Please, we trusted you," one cried. "You swore to protect us," another shouted. The masked figure stood silent, unmoving, like a statue. Then the masked figure turned and looked directly at her. A shock of recognition slammed into her, and her vision spun wildly. The mask slipped from the figure's face. And beneath it was her own face staring back at her. Nkem woke with a violent gasp, her entire body drenched in cold sweat. She wasn't just part of this story. She had been the cause of it. The villagers' curse, the vanishing of Idu-Ogba, the whispers in the wind, it was all connected to her. But how? And worse, if she had betrayed the village once before, would she do it again? Nkem sat frozen on the woven mat, her breath shallow, her pulse hammering in her ears. The dream, no, the memory, had shaken her to her core. If what she saw was real, then she wasn't just another journalist chasing a ghost story. She was tied to Idu-Ogba in ways she couldn't yet understand. She needed answers. Steeling herself, she stepped out of the hut. The seventh sunset was approaching. The villagers stood in silence, watching the horizon as if waiting for something inevitable. Their faces were calm, too calm. Mama Ife stood near the central fire, stirring a thick, bubbling potion in a clay pot. Baba Ojo sat beside her, his gaze fixed on the fading sun. Nkem approached them cautiously. "What happens when the sun sets?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mama Ife didn't look up. "The village will vanish once more." Nkem clenched her fist. "And you all disappear with it." Baba Ojo finally turned his gaze to her. "That is the way of Idu-Ogba. We have lived outside of time for centuries. We are neither alive nor truly gone." Nkem swallowed hard. But why? How did this happen? Mama Ife stopped stirring and slowly looked up. "You already know." Nkem's throat tightened. "I saw something in my dream, a betrayal. A masked figure. And the villagers, they were pleading for mercy." Baba Ojo's eyes darkened. "Then you remember the truth?" Nkem shook her head. "I don't understand. Who was the masked figure? Why did she look like me?" Silence. Then Mama Ife spoke, her voice heavy with sorrow. "The masked betrayer was you." The words hit Nkem like a physical blow. No, that's impossible." Baba Ojo sighed. "You were once part of Idu-Ogba. But you were different, gifted. The elders trusted you, and the village flourished under your guidance. Until he came." A chill ran down Nkem's spine. "Who?" "The stranger from the forest," Mama Ife whispered. "A man who spoke in riddles and promised knowledge beyond our world. He saw your gift and loaded you with power." The word spun. Nkem's hands trembled. "And I betrayed the village." Mama Ife nodded. "You performed a forbidden ritual. You tried to harness a power that was never meant to be touched. And when the village elders tried to stop you, you cursed them all." Nkem's breath came in shallow gasps. The masked figure, the betrayer, it had been her. But if she had done this, if she had condemned Idu-Ogba to this endless cycle, could she undo it? The sun sank lower, the edges of the village beginning to blur. Time was running out. Nkem turned to Baba Ojo, desperation in her voice. "How do I break the curse?" The old man studied her, his eyes filled with something between sorrow and hope. The answer is within you. That's not enough. Tell me what to do. Baba Ojo sighed. You must find the altar where the ritual was cast. The mask must be returned. And the words you once spoke must be undone. The seventh sunset was nearly gone. Nkem had only one chance. She had to find the altar before the village vanished once more. She turned and ran into the forest. The past would no longer be her prison. The forest closed in around Nkem like a living entity, the trees whispering as she ran. She ignored the fear clawing at her chest and pressed forward. She had to find the altar. The pounding of her heart matched the beat of unseen drums. The deeper she ventured, the heavier the air became, as if the very atmosphere was thick with ancient power. Then she saw it. A clearing. At its center stood an ancient stone altar, cracked and covered in creeping vines. And resting atop it, the mask. It was exactly as she had seen in her dream, dark, weathered, its hollow eyes staring back at her. A deep chill spread through her bones. As she stepped closer, a thick mist swirled around the altar, and a figure emerged. A shadow. A presence. The masked betrayer. Nkem's breath itched as the figure solidified, a woman cloaked in black, the very mask resting upon her face. A voice, soft yet echoing with centuries of weight, drifted toward her. You finally remember. The word spun. The whispers in the wind became deafening. The figure removed her mask. And Nkem stared into her own face. She gasped, stepping back. No, this isn't possible. You came seeking the truth, and now you have it. Nkem's mind raced. If you're me, then who are you now? A cold smile. I am the part of you that never left. The one who clung to power. The one who cursed this village. The shadows swirled around her, dark tendrils licking at the ground. You condemned them all, the past Nkem continued. And now, you think you can undo what has already been written. I have to break the curse, she said firmly. Past Nkem's smile faded. And why should you? Because they deserve to be free. Past Nkem laughed, a hollow, chilling sound. You forget, child. You are the curse. A name whispered in the wind. The true name of Idu-Ogba. Nkem gasped. The answer had been there all along. If the curse began with a name, it could end with a name. She locked eyes with her past self. I know what I have to do. The masked betrayer frowned. No. You do not. Nkem ignored her. She turned to the altar, heart pounding. The mask still lay there, waiting. She reached for it. And the shadow screamed. Past Nkem lunged at her, but Nkem grasped the mask, pulling it into her hands. A voice boomed through the trees, deep and ancient. The village is watching. Lightning split the sky. And then, darkness. The moment Nkem lifted the mask from the altar, a gust of wind erupted from the earth, spiraling around her like a storm. The whispers turned into wails, rising in intensity until they became a single, unified voice. You have remembered, you have chosen, now you must finish it. The mask in her hands trembled violently, its surface shifting like liquid metal. It was fighting her. The villagers gathered around, their faces filled with a mixture of hope and fear. Baba Ojo stepped forward, his old eyes glistening. The curse was born from betrayal, and only truth can set us free, he said. But truth demands sacrifice. A sharp pain bloomed in Nkem's chest as memories surged through her mind. She saw flashes of another life, her life, centuries ago. She had once been a protector of Idu-Ogba. She had stood against an invader who sought to claim the village's secrets. But she had failed. Her betrayal had not been of greed, but of hesitation. She had hesitated when she should have acted, and that single moment of doubt had doomed the village to an endless cycle of vanishing and returning. Tears welled in her eyes. "I was the reason this happened." Baba Ojo nodded solemnly. "And now, you are the reason it can end." Nkem steadied herself and lifted the mass high. The wind howled, the villagers gasped, and a bolt of golden lightning struck the altar. "Name the village," the voices commanded. She closed her eyes, feeling the truth settle deep in her soul. And then, she spoke the name that had been forgotten for centuries. Idu-Ogba. The moment the name left her lips, the word shifted. Nkem opened her eyes. The village was still standing. But it was no longer flickering between realities. The sky above was bright and blue, the air fresh with the scent of earth after rain. The people of Idu-Ogba had gone to rest, no more vanishing. Nkem emerged from the dense forest, her legs aching from the journey. The thick canopy of trees had given way to the bright, open sky, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she saw a paved road. A few feet ahead, Sei stood frozen, his eyes wide with shock. "You," his voice was barely above a whisper. "You came back." Nkem nodded slowly, still gripping the carved pendant in her palm. "How long was I gone?" Sei hesitated. "One day." Her heart skipped a beat. "That's impossible." Back in Lagos, Nkem sat at her desk, staring at the blinking cursor on her laptop screen. But Nkem was frozen. She had been back for days, yet she hadn't written a single word. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she tried to piece everything together: the village, the curse, the faces of the people who had once been trapped in time. She reached for her notebook, flipping through pages of carefully scribbled notes. But something was wrong. The village's location was gone. Her sketches of the old shrine, the names of the villagers, even the words of Baba Ojo, vanished, as if she had never written them at all. Her heart pounded. She searched through her phone, checking the photos she had taken in Idu-Ogba. They were all black. Like the village had erased itself from history. But Nkem knew the truth. She took a deep breath and began to type. "There is a village that should not exist. A place lost between time and memory. A place that calls to those who seek it. I went looking for Idu-Ogba, and it found me." She didn't know if anyone would believe her. Maybe they'd think it was just another mystery folktale, like the ones old grandmothers whisper to children at night. But she had to tell the story. Because somewhere, deep in the forest of Africa, Idu-Ogba was still waiting. Still watching.